Bam, bam, bam. Happy Monday, guys.
everyone. Happy Monday. For some people, it's a motivational Monday. Others, it's a mindful Monday. But if you are here with us on Say That channel, it is another Monday
Say
Rundown.
that, say that, say that.
We love Monday Rundowns because myself, Janelle Villiers, and that over there, Winston Broderick, we get to talk about all the things that we don't normally get to talk about on our Wednesday shows, which are focused mainly on business related things. We can talk about other things like relationships and emotions and all of those types of things. And then we
Some
look
very
to other
nuanced.
content creators and experts to share with us about their thoughts about the topic that comes up for the day.
All right,
Keep
let's jump
bringing
into
up the
today.
topics and the questions; they're really helpful. Yes, let's get into today. Is it good to avoid? Hmm. Avoid what? If I'm thinking like if I'm a UN delegate, I'm probably trying to avoid disastrous conflicts or right, like that kind of a thing.
You take it that far? Wow.
Yeah. I was like, we could go right. Avoid what? What are we avoiding? If we're talking about relationships, though, which I'm pretty sure where we're going with this, there's this whole attachment theory that everybody's talking about now, where you have people who are attached and you have other people who are more avoidant. And I do think, I mean, those who are avoidant tend to avoid a lot of things, not just things in their relationship, but it's kind of it's the emotional avoiding. Like they find that they avoid having emotions. They don't like when their partner is too clingy. Seems like they're always
Hmm.
trying to have them be around and things like that. And so, why someone is avoidant or more was more attached, a lot of it has to do with how we grew up in our childhood. However, being too far one way and too far the other isn't necessarily the most healthy. And a lot of times, people who are avoidant tend to attract people who are very attached. And then they literally do the thing to each other that repels them away. And so then you have a smaller portion of people in the population who are essentially right down the middle. They're healthy. They're not too avoidant or too attached. Apparently, they are typically very hard to find because they usually get in a relationship, and because they're so healthy in that relationship, don't get out of it.
Hmm.
So statistically speaking, but we can all work on ourselves and figure out if we're too one way or the other to help maintain a healthier relationship with our partner. So I think I do have some avoidant tendencies for sure, but then I think there are other times where I feel like I'm a little attached. So I think it depends on the maybe like the topic of what's going on in the relationship. And then sometimes I think, well, that is literally the definition of someone who's an avoidant. I'm like, sometimes I think I avoid my own emotions, but that's what an avoidant person does. So,
That's
uh,
so interesting.
uh,
Um,
yeah.
for me, the what comes to mind is, does anyone stay in either state? I guess always, because I know I vacillate between what I would assume is attached, what I've been or what has been described as attachment. That's another thing. A lot of us, even when I'm hearing the question, I feel like are self-diagnosing some of this stuff. So one person tells you you are attached, or maybe you're too clingy, and the next thing you know, you're talking I'm going to call a normal relational behavior, or maybe a normal level of interaction or desire for interaction. You are now labeling yourself as something that you are not. So I don't this the question again. I like just being aware. I know I go between both. I know there are times where I like to be honestly just by myself, and maybe to a particular person, it can be troublesome, or maybe they view it as an not something they like. And I think to each his own. So you're just gonna have to kind of find however much of that is okay for you. But a lot of this almost makes me feel like this goes right back to, again, communication. uh, I think you can say to a person, I need space right now, or I need, if you can be aware enough to recognize whatever you need. Hey, I need to be clingy right now, or I need to, whatever that is that you think you're getting from being clingy. I think there's a person out there that's all like, again, that's about that. They just need to know. So it's an interesting question. I know it's not necessarily phrased as a negative, but the fact that I'm asking it says good. Is it good to avoid? I think it is when you know you need to be by yourself, or it's good to avoid something when you know, hey, I'm not in an emotional state to deal with this right now, and if I force myself to go handle this, it's gonna do more harm than good. So I think yes, if you're aware and it's something that right then and there can wait, I think you should avoid it. And then if it obviously in another instance, if it's something that needs to be addressed, I know Janelle mentioned, some people for themselves, they may feel it's better to talk something out right then and there. I don't always know how to say that that's the best course of action. If for the other party, they don't think that that's the best way to handle it. You're muted, Jay, so I'm not.
Yeah, I hear. Yes, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I don't know how to tell because I've been in situations like that where I'm the party saying right now I want to discuss this, and the other person saying no, and just a lot of the Simon Sinek that we've heard. I know that if I'm essentially, and I wasn't doing it in the best way, asking permission to have that conversation by saying, "Oh well, I want to talk about it now," and their response is, "Well, hey, no, I know I'm not in a good space." That to me is the same as me trying to get permission, being told no, this is not the right time for this conversation, and if I move forward, then I have to recognize that I'm probably not going to get the best of that person. Again, just putting myself in their position when I'm being asked, "Hey, you want to talk about this?" and I know, nah, right now, I know I don't want to do this. You're not going to get the best of me. So I think again, it's just circumstantial.
I agree.
Yeah.
And also important that we're aware of these distinctions. All right, but it is not just us. We are going to our good friends at the School of Life. Woo!
Take us to school.
And let's hear what they've got to say on the topic.
Let's do it.
Avoidant is the term usefully coined by attachment theorists to define those of us who, through no fault of our own, but with full responsibility for our condition, have grave difficulties around intimate relationships. We may want, in principle, to be close to people, but in reality, we tend to find ourselves feeling claustrophobic and sickened whenever we grow overly involved with anyone. We long to sleep somewhere on our own after lovemaking. We want to make independent plans for the weekend. We rather ungratefully cool whenever a partner becomes too affectionate towards us. Or if a relationship threatens to work, our thoughts turn as though by some automatic process to the charms of other people. Researchers tell us where this comes from. Somewhere long in our pasts, our relationships with our caregivers didn't go as they should have done. Someone let us down, someone implicitly taught us that love was not to be trusted, someone injected us with a dual suspicion of ourselves and of the solidity of any bond with another. And so we learnt to associate distance and solitude with safety. We may be high-functioning in many parts of life. When it comes to love, we may, until now, simply never have been able to get things to work. It sounds dispiriting and even rather dangerous to be around, but we can find hope in an important detail, that there is a substantial difference between acting avoidantly from unconscious motives on the one hand, and on the other, feeling drawn to avoidant responses while being actively and preemptively aware of what is actually going on. There is a difference, in other words, between acting out and insight. The latter doesn't miraculously remove the problem, but it gives us an enormous advantage, the capacity to warn others that we care about, and might well, in a rational part of our minds, be sincerely trying to build a relationship with, that we are not fully well. Arguably, in love, we don't need, or in any case unlikely to find, perfection. What we need are people with a more or less solid grasp on some of their leading imperfections who can then warn us of them with charm, grace, and apology before too much damage has been done. There is a sizable difference between ruining a weekend for someone by mysteriously deciding at the last moment that one has made other plans and explaining to the partner on a Thursday evening that the prospect of 48 hours in their company, though fully welcome in theory, in practice has generated an awkward set of emotional responses that lie outside one's full control and for which one feels embarrassed and thoughtful. There is a sizable difference between acting madly and sharing the temptation to do so ahead of time. For the recovering avoidant, the following speech might be helpful. I'm so sorry for being peculiar. I care about you a lot. It's just I've observed that when I do care, something a bit odd happens. A part of me tries to manage the distance and find fault. A part of me that dates back to a defense mechanism of childhood needs to put some walls between us because proximity feels at some level odd and frightening. It's how I learned to cope way back, and the mechanism still operates within me now. It's not that I don't love you. It's that being around love and depending on someone brings with it terrors on account of dynamics in my past that I'm working on. I'm trying to switch off the alarm. I'm a little crazy, but I have a good therapist. I'm committed to the work. Please bear with me, but I would understand entirely if you couldn't. None of this is perfect. One wouldn't necessarily wish this kind of relationship on anyone one cared about. But in the real world, which is where many of us have to live, we cannot magic away the condition. The 25% or so of the population with avoidant traits have options. They can have all the neuroses that their condition lends them. They can feel eerie whenever someone is too close to them. They can want to get away after too much time together. They can hate cuddling, but they can put in the effort to acquire one advantage. They can know they are damaged. They can give a map of their follies to those who depend on them. Furthermore, once they've laid hands on the maturity to be able to say, I find love so hard and so frightening, it might even become a little less so. And on the other side of the equation, once one has been thoroughly warned, one may just find the sad behavior easier to bear, or at least easier to understand, and where necessary, to get cleanly out of the way of. We don't just have the option of being avoidant or not. The madness can be invited into the relationship and addressed without shame or mystery. We can aspire to a valuable third position as we work on improving ourselves, that of the recovering avoidant, the avoidant under no illusions as to their sanity, and daily committed to learning to slowly bear the ecstasy and sublime risks of mutual love.
This was good. In listening to this, I'm definitely less avoidant, I think.
Yeah, what they were describing again is what I'm talking about. It's
Yeah.
just they're describing to me, and I know of the example they gave, great one about the person who wants to sleep in another bed.
Mm-hmm.
So even something like that. I just had a client. I remember her telling me a story about that and how that was the way she was, and how happy she was that her husband didn't take offense to this because it was just about getting sleep. She said it had nothing to do about romance. It's just the way that they slept was just not conducive to their relationship or for them getting great sleep at night. And so she liked to snore. He wasn't someone that could deal with that. And so they slept in different beds. Again, from the outside of, I think if she was just to tell you that without explaining something, you would immediately go, oh no, I couldn't, you know what I mean? Like it just becomes this red flag thing. But her relationship was better for that, them having this understanding. It actually made me think there's a story. I remember once you had told me something, and I had shared a story with you about a woman who ended up winning the lotto, but knew that the guy she was going to be marrying was bad with money. And was, and even he was aware. And I thought it was so interesting because I listening to a person say she's aware of this negative that he has about or thinks he has about himself, and is comfortable knowing that that's the negative she's willing to deal with. Okay, that's his vice. Great. I think many relationships would do so much better in almost most instances if people could be more honest with each other about just something that they have that, to the video's point, it makes them a little, I guess I think the term he used was broken or damaged, but just make, I would like to say different. There was a term used in one of our interviews a couple weeks back where you were describing there's a vase that breaks, and that whole idea of doing it back together. And I thought
kintsugi, the Japanese art of beautifying the cracks and the faults.
I like to look at it more in that way. just terminology, just for my own, I guess, self love. There's nothing damaged about you. You're just unique in a way, and I personally think there's a match. I just feel like there's so many people in the world. There are matches out there. There are people out there that can mesh with you well in a romantic, if that's what you're looking for. And I know this could obviously mean business and other things, but they obviously seem to be talking about romance.
Yeah,
Or
attachment theory is based on romantic relationships.
oh, okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, this was
All
really
right.
good.
This is great. Let us know. Are you an avoidance? Are you out there? They said
Great
25% of
question.
the population is an avoidant. Are you one of them? Do you feel like you're more attached? If you know what that means.
Have you ever
Let,
dated an avoidant or married to an avoidant?
ooh,
I'd love
yeah.
to hear that.
Yeah.
Because again, I'd love to know if they've figured out their own way of doing it.
Yeah. So we're excited. This has been great. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Share, please share. It's all for free, right? It doesn't cost you
Say
anything
that.
to do that, but it means the world to us if you do. It helps us with the algorithms and gets more people to see our show.
Content. Say that.
So we will see you next week. But until then, as always, remember that you deserve the good life. Say that.
Say that. We'll see you guys. Enjoy your week.